Yeah, I'm gonna say right off the bat that I'm really nervous about doing this talk because yeah, I'm just talking about my journey, so it's I feel pretty vulnerable doing it, and it was quite a strong experience for me to actually write it all down because I've never done that before. So that's a bit of a disclaimer. Um, yeah, so it kind of started when I was 17. Really, I'll paint a picture at school. What I was like, I was very quiet. I think I was fairly like afraid of people, really. And one of the aspects of that was that I was really terrible with girls. I was like, I was seeing everyone else couple up, it seemed, and I was just like, oh, man, I suck at this. I'm really bad. So I went for a pragmatic approach and I decided to get into self-help. So I wanted to be proactive and say, okay, well, how can I improve myself? How can I become more confident and more attractive, I guess. And through that self-help route, uh, I found a book called A New Earth, which is by this guy Eckhart Tolle. And it was completely unexpected, but this book just blew my head off. It was just like, it was the first experience that I'd had of reading something where everything just felt like it was slotting into place about intuitions that I'd had about life and what I wanted to do in my time. Um, the gist of the book, the main aspect of it really was an emphasis on mindfulness or presence. I remember walking to college and walking through the park to college, and like it was like I was literally seeing the world for the first time. It was completely yeah, very, very unexpected. The freshness of everything was so vivid, and I didn't really have any idea what was going on. But it felt incredible. And I think that was my first experience with like the transcendental in a way, something much bigger, much more mysterious than I'd experienced before. So I signed up to a meditation course at the Brighton Buddhist Center. So I wanted to discover more about what I had found, and I did a Google search and I went to the Buddhist Center. And as a good omen, I actually got, I was 17 and I got picked up by a 21-year-old at my first Buddhist course. So I was like, all right, this is it then. I'm in this for good then. Uh, um, I so I started going to the center quite regularly, and I booked on my first retreat, which was at Padmaloka, which is the men's retreat center, as part of this tradition. And on this retreat, I remember a significant part of what I was thinking about at that time was just about happiness, really. Like what is it that makes us happy? And I asked a ordained Buddhist there, you know, do you wake up happy? Essentially, like, does this work? You know, and he just said, well, I know what to do when I'm sad. And that was that felt like a very spiritual answer. I didn't quite understand, but it felt like quite a spiritual answer. I also had this real experience on the last day, the Sunday of this retreat, weekend retreat, of just this random sense of like bliss or happiness. And again, this theme of the transcendental, of something much bigger, came up then. So time passed and I was going to center and stuff, and I decided I wanted to go traveling because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what I wanted to study at uni or anything like that. So I went traveling. And I booked onto a Vipassana retreat. So if you've never heard of a Vipassana retreat, they're usually 10 days and they are super hardcore. Like it's meditating 10 hours a day. There's no eye contact. There's no books, exercise. You're literally there just looking inwards. It's pretty full on. There was a story from that which was I was outside in the courtyard on like the 7th day, and obviously like you go a little bit mad on a retreat like that. It's a bit of an endurance test, really. And there was this guy outside in the car park, which was where we were sort of wandering around in breaks, and he was just there, like, just this smile on his face, like looking up at the sky, like so blissed out. Like, I was like, oh my God, he's had some breakthrough or experience, you know. And I was a little bit jealous. I was like, oh my God, he just looks like he's having this amazing time. And on the last day, when we actually finally got to chat, then asked him, what happened a few days ago? Like, you just looked so ecstatic. And he just said, well, I was just thinking that we had 3 days till we could go home. And I think it was a reflection of this retreat, even though it was a strong experience, no doubt, like I had some really amazing mental states. It also showed me what I didn't want. So it felt very, very serious. It felt like almost like a business model for enlightenment. Like, you're going to do this many hours and you're going to build up over the next 10 years or 15 years, 20 years. And if you do that, you will get to this point. And all the stuff that I was reading at that time very much came from the angle of, this is something intrinsic to you already. This is something within you. What you're tapping into here is something pre-existing. And in a way, it's not gaining enlightenment, it's losing delusion. And that's been a real theme in my practice as an angle. So I go back to Brighton, and while away, I met my girlfriend, Imi, and learning to share, I'm an only child, and like learning to share my life with someone was a really transformative kind of experience, really. We went back to Brighton and moved in with my parents together, and I started up a community in Brighton called the Advaita Sangha. And what we would do is we would sit around and just discuss, in a way, the kind of thing that we discuss here. And I just found this experience of sharing this stuff with people as just being so strong and important to me. And a practice and an awakening thing in itself, just conversation and sharing. And that's why I come to these sessions, and that's why I think they're really important. So I stayed in Brighton for a couple of years, and then I decided I wanted to go and study graphic design in Manchester, hence why I moved over. And I started missing this Sangha that I'd built in Brighton, and that's when I thought I'd come to the Young Buddhists in Manchester, because I wanted to be part of the community again. It had been a couple of years by this point since I had been on the Vipassana retreat, and I thought it was about time that I went on another retreat. And I guess it was a bit of a backlog of retreats have this amazing quality of giving you space to explore things in a way that you just wouldn't be able to do in ordinary life, basically. I booked on this retreat, and it was a week-long retreat with two teachers called Singashri and Balaji. And this week-long retreat was guided so well. It was like the first few days was really stilling and kind of calming the mind. And then this perfect combination of metta or loving kindness practices and insight practices. And it really felt like this combination that I hadn't really explored before, as well as that, like, just having this space, as I said, like to explore things in really unique conditions. Like you're given a lot of space to meditate, you're given a lot of space without your phone and things like that. And just sitting late, meditating in the shrine room, having all these really big emotional things kind of unfold, and these big insights, and feeling really upset and really blissed out. And this whole experience of this retreat was really kind of massive for me, and has really stayed with me since. It kind of led to me committing to practice, like meditation practice, particularly, in a way that I'd never done before. Yeah, but there were certain like issues too. I think one aspect of my life at that time was that me and my girlfriend Imi, she was studying to become a teacher and I was a student, so our lives were kind of, timings were quite misaligned, and we ended up drifting over the course of a year or so. And I was practicing a lot and meditating a lot at that time, and I wasn't able to spend so much time with her in the evening, which I think was part of the drifting. So I had a lot of momentum in my spiritual practice through the meditation and retreats, and then it just kind of hit this point where me and Amy just, well, we broke up really, and it totally threw me off. Like I was like completely unprepared for it. I was in this place of vulnerability, in this place of just not knowing what I was doing, and I was so unused to that. And I was kind of falling apart, and Imi was actually like helping me, you know, and it was a space that I'd never been, this kind of vulnerability before, and that's really been an eye-opening experience for me, that happening. And the way that Imi supported me was just, again, it was a kind of awakening experience in itself. I was kind of coming out of this haze of us drifting, and the support was there from her, and we did end up getting back together after that, and we stayed together like now. But it was a very strong experience for me, and very raw. And I think those kinds of experiences of learning to be vulnerable have been really important to my journey as well. One of the decisions that we made was that we weren't going to live together for a while. So I moved into the Buddhist community in Salford. And again, this was another experience of learning to share my life with people. There's a commitment in a community to eat together one night a week, to make sure that things don't remain unsaid, that you're resolving issues as they come up. And I've really felt like I matured during that time of being there. One of the aspects that I wasn't expecting was having these like really fiery conversations about all sorts of things at the dinner table, and that actually gave me a lot of confidence in my own voice and like what my opinions actually were. But it maybe wasn't what I was expecting from a Buddhist community. And that's where I met Tom, and we like hung out a lot during lockdown, and like went on these really long walks together, chatting about the Dharma or the practices that we were doing. And again, kind of as the breakup was still really in the background to some extent, like the vulnerability that I was able to feel around Tom, and like to be able to go to him with these kind of issues and stuff as they were coming up, has been a really like heart-opening experience for me. So that brings us to nearly now. I'm not even going to bother trying to explain how many times I moved in the last few months. There's just not any point. But yeah, with lockdown, it's just been like all crazy. But basically, I'm in Brighton now with my parents, and doing this talk. I suppose what I wanted to sum up with and kind of try and capture really is some aspects that have become this journey in a way, like really important to this journey. The first is that initial taste of the transcendental, of something basically mysterious, like something that I hadn't figured out, or I will never be able to figure out in a way. It's like it's something experiential. It is something non-conceptual, kind of unable to capture through thought alone. And that was something that I had an experience of very early on, and that stuck with me. The second one was this intrinsic quality to these practices, that I'm uncovering this kind of pure awareness or openness. It's not something that I'm gaining or building or grafting or, you know, whatever, hustling to get. Like, this is something that is being uncovered. And whenever I come home to that, whenever I really give myself enough respect to sit and meditate and practice, that's something that I tap into. And the final thing is vulnerability. Through, I think, particularly like the breakup, and I mean, really, this is just, this whole journey is a heart-opening experience. I don't know, maybe particularly as a man, but like just being able to say I'm a bit fucked, or I'm a bit like just not doing that well, or like struggling, or I don't know what I'm doing, or whatever, that really feels like a result of my practice, and I'm just really grateful to have that. So that is my talk.